In this tragic world, the city is constrained by the fiendish Vander Kooi family. One time per year, the top of the family Hilda accumulates 12 residents she aversions to partake in the winnowing, during which every one of the 12 members wind up dead on live TV. Kid is a kid who has an exceptionally basic life in the organization of his flighty mother, who gives off an impression of being important for the obstruction, and his sister Mina. The kin hang out together constantly, at the arcade, or basically staring at the television while eating grain. Some of the time Mina would make insane arrangements for the future, such as burglarizing a bank together to escape from this terrible city. She likewise prefers to give Hilda's sculpture the finger with her entire hand. Sadly, the kin are ultimately picked for the winnowing, and Kid needs to watch his family wind up dead by Hilda. He additionally gets injured, and is left for dead in the wilderness. Before long, the shaman tracks down him and medical attendants him to well-being. Albeit one injury is long-lasting, Kid is currently hard of hearing and quiet. He couldn't in fact recollect what his voice used to be like, so he utilizes the voiceover of his #1 computer game in his internal considerations. From that point on, the shaman begins preparing Kid so one day he can kill Hilda and seek his retribution. He incorporates a wide range of training, combative techniques, strength preparing by moving a sculpture's head up a slope, and weapons preparing. Kid consistently gets covered in the mud and uses a bamboo stick to inhale, involving the bugs that slither down the stick for food. On the off chance that he slithers out of the mud too soon, the shaman reprimands him and covers him once more. Kid additionally does every one of the errands around their home and spends time with his main companions, who end up being 2 insects. The shaman develops his own food and not much, which disappoints Kid. A few evenings, the shaman utilizes uppers that cause Kid to daydream and return to his old recollections so he will not disregard his objective. Anyway, more often than not he sees insane things moving around him. Kid at times visits the city to work on understanding lips, and when somebody irritates him he shows them a little piece of paper making sense of his circumstance. He likewise continues to see Mina wherever in light of the fact that he can't continue on. As years pass, Kid stretches his body to the edge and develops into a strong young fellow as the preparation becomes more earnestly. One day during another training battle, he gets the shaman in a hold and is going to overcome him. However, at that point he gets diverted by one more vision of Mina. The shaman quickly utilizes the opportunity to beat him and closes he isn't prepared. Thereafter Kid attempts to reflect to cause Mina's visualization to vanish, however it doesn't work. The following time he gets down to business, Kid sees a charming blossom young lady who gives him a bloom and grins in a coquettish manner. Sadly, the sweet second is interfered with by the appearance of the public authority fighters, who begin pursuing individuals to assemble 12 for the following separating. As everybody frenzies and runs absurdly, Kid stows away and watches Gideon and Glenn join the warriors. They are important for the Vander Kooi family, and seeing them sets off a memory in Kid. At the point when he was a kid, he and Mina saw Gideon enter his home to kill a radical. In the wake of get-together everyone individuals in the square, Glenn gives a discourse to declare the 12 anointed ones. He begins bothering an unfortunate family, and a lady in the group affronts him for it. So Glenn shoots her. This makes the group go off the deep end. Accordingly, Gideon calls Headmaster June 27th to deal with it. She quickly deals with a man with a hatchet, removing his arm prior to killing them. Then, at that point, she begins killing each whining individual while her protective cap shows various words to match her discourse. Kid looks as his awful recollections get set off. However, the shaman prevents him from aiding on the grounds that he isn't prepared. In the end, just 6 individuals stay for the winnowing, and Glenn chastens June 27th, who will not hijack any children. After a contention and gesture-based communication, Kid resists the shaman and starts running on the roofs to find the foe. The gathering is currently stranded in rush hour gridlock, so Kid sneaks behind one of their vehicles and gets inside the storage compartment with a dead body. Later at a stockroom, Kid emerges and watches Melanie chide his family members for just getting 6 individuals rather than 12. She then advises Gideon to get 6 individuals off the road to finish the set. Out of nowhere, Kid sees the pipe dream of Mina close to him and contends with her in his brain, making him forget about the foe. He begins sneaking around the stockroom while counterfeit Mina pushes forward, playing ninjas. Failing to remember she isn't genuine, Kid handles her to save her from an approaching truck and is seen by Glenn, who sends the gatekeepers after him. Kid rushes to conceal Mina in a storage and takes a firearm. However, he recollects the shaman instructed him that he's the weapon. Prepared for vengeance, Kid emerges and begins battling the officers hand-to-hand, utilizing his strong punches, a blade, and the men's own firearms to kill them individually. As the fighters open shoot, he involves a body as safeguard, and a slave called Basho tosses him a firearm, yet it doesn't have slugs. Subsequent to taking a superior weapon from the body, Kid shoots a couple of troopers and hurries to stow away with Basho, who offers to help kill in the event that Kid liberates from his chains. Kid shoots the chains to break them, then he returns to the battle, killing an ever-increasing number of warriors while Basho takes cover behind a truck. Individually, every foe goes down under Kid's abilities to astonish, yet there's one officer that will not bite the dust. Kid continues to battle him, and in the end stalls his hands out in a machine to prevent him from moving any longer. Anyway, the warrior simply pulls and abandons his arm to battle Kid once more. This time Kid removes his legs to stop him at last. Basho praises their triumph just for Glenn to start shooting at them. He bombs his shots and Basho shoots back, hitting him in the leg. Kid prepares to kill Glenn, yet Basho reminds him they can involve him for data. Glenn is cross-examined and makes sense of that Hilda hosts a gathering at her manor consistently before the separating. He even proposes to help them, but Basho drops a weighty item on Glenn's head to kill him. The pair leaves the distribution center, and Kid sees a shadow watching from a remote place. Basho takes him to the mysterious area of the obstruction, just to think that it is vacant. Unexpectedly, Kid is held at gunpoint by Benny, who puts his weapon down when Basho makes reference to Kid as their ally. Benny makes sense of that the troopers came for the agitators and killed everybody except him. Since Benny talks a weird vernacular, Kid experiences difficulty paying close attention to him. Basho learns his better half is dead as well and has a breakdown, so Kid solaces him. The group makes an arrangement to invade the party. However, Kid continues to get occupied by Mina in the recollections of his experience growing up. As a matter of fact, he actually has the drawing Mina did as a youngster. At the point when Basho and Benny make sense of the last arrangement for Kid, he doesn't get it, yet he gestures along in light of the fact that Mina tells him to. Subsequent to getting a few weapons, they pass on a van and come to the house. They take out a couple of gatekeepers and, surprisingly, a gourmet specialist, whose uniform is utilized by Kid to get into the party. Kid doesn't actually have any idea what gourmet specialists do and gracelessly meanders around the house until he gets diverted by macaroons, which he never had. Fortunately, Basho, who is utilizing a watchman uniform, sees him and reminds him to return to work. Seeing Hilda close by, Kid becomes eager for retribution and chooses to act chefly. He goes to the kitchen and removes the uniform, so different laborers begin battling him. Utilizing a cheddar grater, Kid cuts their skin in the most ridiculously frightening ways to kill them. Then, at that point, he snatches Butcher's blade and goes to the feasting corridor, where he slits a watchman's jugular prior to hopping on the individual at the top of the table, beheading her. Kid celebrates having killed Hilda, just to pivot and find this is some unacceptable individual. Unexpectedly, Gideon appears with a lot of watchmen and makes sense of individuals at the table are entertainers on the grounds that consistently they anticipate moronic opposition individuals. Kid hops on Gideon to imprison her with his own weapon. However, sadly, June 27th hits him from behind, and he unintentionally lets Gideon go. A horrendous battle starts between June 27th and Kid as they exchange blows all around the room, utilizing any item their hands can reach. As they carry out of the lounge area, Kid handles a generally excellent hit and takes June 27th's protective cap off. Mina then shows up and says the lady is pretty, diverting Kid. This gives June 27th the opening to drive him off the railing and take him out. An oblivious Kid begins having bad dreams about the past, the execution of his mom and sister, the system removing his tongue, and being dangled from a tree. He recollects the shaman saved him and conveyed him into the wilderness, prepared to prepare him for retaliation. At the point when Kid awakens, he's attached to a seat and June 27th is punching him as she asks him where to track down the shaman. Kid mouths the F word at her, making her toss a hatchet extremely near his head. Gideon makes her leave since he'll dominate, just to report he's burnt out on all the torment and the winnowing. He offers a cigarette that Kid eats as he makes sense of Hilda is a shell of her previous self, since she went through years in a dugout, turning out to be excessively distrustful and lethal. Gideon knows that they aren't killing adversaries any longer, simply blameless individuals. He swears he can end everything assuming Kid hands in the shaman, yet Kid won't coordinate and Gideon hits him. At that point, Melanie shows up and paints Kid's lips, while reporting he'll be the fundamental star of the separating. Minutes after the fact, Kid is restricted in the studio and given a shock collar. He asks the Mina fantasy for what good reason she didn't allow him to kill June 27th. However, the young lady doesn't have the foggiest idea. Before long, the show starts and Hilda emerges. However, rather than perusing the monitor, she begins meandering aimlessly in clear neurosis. At the point when she sees a shadow in the crowd, she takes out a firearm. So Melanie sends the gatekeepers to remove Hilda. At that point, Kid recollects that Gideon hid a surgical blade in his pocket, so he takes it out to begin chopping down the ropes. In the meantime, Melanie declares that the current year's separating will have a colder time of year Wonderland subject with sequential mascots and satanic mythical people. A lot of individuals in mask emerge and begin killing the 12 members in a lot of horrifying yet imaginative ways, covering the phony snow with lots of blood. One of the executioners attempts to come after Kid, who just necessitates his legs to acquire the aggressor down seconds. Then, at that point, he at long last liberates himself and heads to the stage, just for Melanie to initiate his shock collar to cut him down. For mythical people promptly snatch him and hold him down for the goat man to kill him, but the person utilizes his mallet to hit a mythical being, all things considered. The other mythical people scarcely get to respond before the goat man rapidly kills them too. At the point when he eliminates the goat head, being Basho is uncovered. At that point, Benny barges in with open fire, and the group panics. Melanie closes the transmission while Gideon watches happily. As the group runs out of the studio, Benny keeps on shooting any foes left, and Basho makes sense of for Kid how they sneaked around wearing the trooper garbs to track down him. Yet again anyway, when Benny assumes control over the clarification, Kid experiences difficulty paying close attention to him and pictures what occurred with amusing subtleties, similar to blossoms and peculiar creatures. Then Benny gives Kid a metal knuckle firearm that discharges shots when he punches somebody. The threesome acts quickly, effectively killing any adversary that actually thinks about battling them. Behind the cameras, Melanie can Gideon arrange this and focuses a firearm at him when he attempts to leave. The battle proceeds and Kid battles a sequential privateer mascot with a knuckle, yet additionally a carrot from a snowman. Before long, he runs out of slugs. However, Benny tosses him a clasp, and he reloads the knuckle to punch and shoot the privateer's face simultaneously. At that point, Kid sees Mina, who is frightened of this side of him. Melanie attempts to utilize the opportunity to shoot him, so Benny handles him to save him and has chance, all things being equal. Basho fires back and panics Melanie into stowing away while Benny kicks the bucket in Kid's arms, saying something Kid can't comprehend. Melanie sneaks around and destroys Basho, also prior to attempting with Kid once more. He runs up the stage and uses a pineapple mascot as a safeguard, moving it down to thump down Melanie and catch her. Kid attaches Melanie to a seat and pushes a camera toward her, quickly killing her. Then, at that point, he minds Basho, who is alive however exceptionally feeble. He actually needs to battle however, so the team takes the corridor and experiences more watches. As Basho begins experiencing difficulty strolling, Kid keeps on killing each man in his manner as his recollections help him to remember then passing of his family, energizing his crave vengeance. A few minutes of viciousness later, every one of the gatekeepers are dead, and Kid wakes up to find Basho kicked the bucket from his injury. Close by, Kid finds Gideon, who was likewise shot by Melanie. With his last energy, Gideon gives Kid a vital card to get to Hilda's dugout. At the point when Kid prepares to kill him out of benevolence, Mina seems to make him stop. Kid at last tells her she's dead, and he needn't bother with her. The mind flight vanishes, and Kid kills Gideon. Then, Kid gets in the lift and Hilda shows up on the screen, saying he'll pass on for no good reason. Kid shows Mina's attracting to say he's doing it for her, making Hilda hang up. The lift takes him to the dugout, and when the entryways open, the gatekeepers don't shoot. June 27th takes Kid to the principal room, where he sees some family compositions that incorporate him and Mina as a youngster. Hilda hurries to embrace him and apologizes for not remembering him. Dropping huge news, Kid and Mina are really her children. As she makes sense of what occurred, Kid begins recalling reality. He had been at the separating, yet not as a casualty. He had been a member. The genuine casualties were the shaman, his child, a lady who he had believed was his mom, and her little girl. Hilda constrained Kid to shoot the weapon to kill them. Yet Kid simply figured out how to kill the youngsters and the lady prior to having a breakdown. His shooting became sporadic and everybody overreacted, permitting the shaman to take off. Overpowered with responsibility, Kid ran into the wilderness to cry alone. The shaman tracked down him and began to gag him. Yet he halted when he got a thought. He captured the youngster. Then he began to condition him to change his recollections. He even hurt Kid, persuading him it had been wounds from the public authority. The shaman cut out Kid's tongue and consumed his ears to make him more controllable. Back to the present, Hilda completes the story by saying Kid has been killing his aunties and uncles. She additionally uncovers that June 27th is really Mina. As Kid tumbles to his knees in shock, Hilda requests the confirmation that her child is still in there and slaps Kid when he doesn't respond. She closes this isn't her child any longer, so she arranges Mina to kill him. Additionally, accepting this isn't her sibling any longer, Mina fires whipping Kid and takes out her hatchet for the kill. However, she freezes when Kid sets up his hand. Recollecting the day with the sculpture, Mina pivots and kills her mom, all things considered. Another relative initiates an alert, and the kin race to stow away as the warriors open fire. They take a few secret weapons and run down the passage, where they begin battling every one of the approaching warriors. Together they make a brilliant group and effectively kill any man that really considers conflicting with them. Out of nowhere, 3 watchmen show up with weighty weapons and Mina gets injured. Fortunately, she's fine and collaborates with Kid again to handle another trooper, involving him as a safeguard to go through the hallway. They arrive at the person with a Gatling firearm, who Mina pulls down while Kid utilizes his own weapons to kill him. As additional fighters show up, the kin hurry to the lift to get away. Hilda makes sense of she's been searching for him such a long time and just hurt individuals since she thought they had harmed him. Out of nowhere, the lift is called to an alternate floor, and when the entryways open, they see the shaman. Utilizing communication via gestures, the shaman advises Kid to kill Mina since she's additionally essential for the shrewd family, yet Kid denies. Mina rapidly goes after the shaman and terrains a couple of hits, yet he effectively overwhelms her. At the point when he's going to kill her, Kid hits him to make him drop her. Then the kin assault the shaman together, but the shaman is unquestionably quick and assaults in a wide range of messy ways, giving the kin horrendous harms. He likewise headbutts Mina to annihilate her cap and hurt her with the shards, causing her to drain vigorously. Presently, Kid needs to battle the shaman alone, and after a couple of moves, he takes the man's neckband to cut him on various occasions with it. As he tosses the shaman all around the room, he coincidentally drops the accessory and the shaman gets it back to cut open Kid's leg and arm. Kid gets the shaman's hands, and with the assistance of a dream of his more youthful self, he pushes down the jewelry to kill his guide at long last. Subsequent to shouting in physical and profound agony, Kid minds Mina and affirms she's alive. She believes that him should escape. However, he gets her, and they leave together as Kid recalls their days in the arcade, referencing it's smarter to have a player as well. In a little while, the kin are in a neglected structure eating grain like the bygone eras. Make a point to buy in and turn on notices so you can observe more recordings like this. Thanks for watching.